My name is Anya, and the truth, when it finally came, did not feel like a shattering. It felt like a settling. A final, grim piece of sediment dropping to the bottom of a long, murky lake, leaving the water cold and clear. The will was the first corpse, but a single body does not make a graveyard. The graveyard was built in the months that followed, as I became an archaeologist of my own marriage, excavating layer after layer of his silent devotion to her. My silent audit with the investigator, Greta, yielded more than financial records. It provided a timeline, a chilling chronology of my own obsolescence. The joint investment account with Carmen, dubbed Verdant Future LLC, was opened not after Sophia's birth, as I'd first believed, but 2 days after the positive IVF test for Maya. While I was lying on a table full of hormones and hope, he was opening a financial womb with her. The emails were not love letters. They were worse. They were love manifestos for a life I wasn't part of. He wrote to Carmen about watching Maya take her first steps. It's like witnessing a miracle I had no right to expect. You gave me that, C. You gave me the courage to believe this was possible. He'd sent that email from his office. That same evening, he'd come home and said to me, "She's getting fast, huh?" before turning on the news. For Sophia's first birthday, Carmen had gifted a tiny, exquisite jade tree. His email to her: "The symbol is perfect, steady growth, deep roots. You always understand the essence of things." To me, he said, "Nice rock." The most devastating find was a video file, buried in a secure cloud drive. It was from Mateo's birth. I'd had an emergency C-section. Leo was allowed to film. The video started with my face, pale and sweaty behind the surgical drape, my eyes wide with fear. The camera held for a moment, then panned shakily away as the doctor worked. It focused instead on the heart rate monitor, then the window. Then finally, it settled and held on Carmen. She was gowned and masked, standing in the corner of the OR, her hands clasped under her chin, her eyes shining with beatific tears. The camera zoomed in on her face as the first cry of our son echoed in the sterile room. A single perfect tear rolled down her cheek. Leo's voice, a whisper choked with emotion, said not, "We have a son, Anya," but "Look at her. Look at what we did." We. I watched it once. The sound of my own pain in the background, the visual focus on her saintly witness. He had filmed the birth of our child as a tribute to her. I was the set, the necessary medical procedure. She was the spiritual center. This was the sacrifice he meant, her emotional labor, her inspirational presence. My physical trauma was just the messy, technical process. My revenge, therefore, had to be more than financial or legal. It had to be existential. I had to dismantle the story he built where she was the muse and I was the machinery. I began a project, not on paper, but in our home. I created a family story wall. I framed not just the typical school photos, but the raw, beautiful, uncurated moments I had captured. Me, bloated and beaming, holding a positive pregnancy test. Me, asleep in a hospital chair. Mateo, a tiny bundle on my chest. Close-ups of my stretch marks, silvered like topography, which I'd once hidden. I included my own artwork, a powerful abstract piece titled Portal that I'd painted while pregnant, all swirling reds and deep blacks. I wrote captions in my own handwriting. The day we began, the quiet victory, the map of you. When Leo asked about it, I said simply, I wanted the children to know where they came from, the real story. He'd look at the wall, at the unflinching focus on my body, my experience, and a vague discomfort would cross his face. It didn't fit his romantic narrative. I didn't cut Carmen out. I elevated her. Extravagantly. Publicly. I nominated her for Godmother of the Year at a local family charity gala. I gave a speech praising her unwavering emotional support. I called her our family's guardian angel. I framed it as generosity, but it was a cage. I painted her into the role of saintly, sexless supporter so brightly that any hint of a different truth would make her the villain. She had to smile and accept the gilded prison. Leo watched, confused, unable to protest without seeming churlish. My art began to sell. Not just locally. A prominent feminist gallery in the city took 3 pieces. The theme of my collection was Cartography of the Unseen, Interior Landscapes of Motherhood. It was visceral, unapologetic. The reviews used words like brave, transformative, a reclamation. My price tag climbed. I opened a separate bank account. I hired a young, sharp business manager, a man, incidentally, named Julian. Leo would see his emails in my inbox. Meeting with Julian re-LA exhibition. Julian finalized the contract. I offered no explanation. Let him wonder. Let him sit with the quiet professional intimacy of another man valuing my work. My first mirrored will was a blunt instrument. The revised one was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. I didn't just leave my assets to Dr. Evan Reed. I created a foundation, the Anya Foundation for Maternal Arts and Health. The will stipulated that my life insurance and art proceeds would fund this foundation. The board would consist of my business manager, Julian, my sister, and Dr. Evan Reed as Medical Director of Somatic Reclamation. The bylaws I drafted were specific. The foundation's mission was to support artists who are mothers, focusing on the physical and spiritual integration of the maternal body's journey, separate from patriarchal narratives of sacrifice. I made sure he found this version too. It was no longer about a man. It was about a legacy that permanently enshrined my philosophy and permanently excluded his. It framed his view of my motherhood as the patriarchal narrative to be deconstructed. He confronted me, the document in his hand, his voice trembling with a new kind of fear. A foundation? Patriarchal narratives? Anna, this is an attack on us, on our family. I was nursing Mateo. I looked up, calm. It's a contingency plan, Lito, just like yours was. It ensures that if something happens to me, my life's work, my art, my perspective continues to have an impact. It's about preserving a voice that's often overlooked. Surely you understand wanting to leave a meaningful legacy. I echoed his own words from when he'd first shown me his patent filings. He was speechless. The moral high ground he'd assumed was now a canyon beneath his feet. The final twist, the unraveling of the muse. This is where I added the spice he never saw coming. Carmen, suffocating under the weight of my public saint-making and sensing Leo's newfound fearful distance from her, made a mistake. She got desperate. She sent him an email, a late-night, wine-fueled missive. Do you ever think about what we almost had, what we could have been without all this complicated gratitude? Leo deleted it, but Greta, my investigator, had a keystroke logger on his home office computer as part of the ongoing audit. I had the email. I didn't confront him with it. I invited Carmen over for coffee when Leo was at work and the kids were at play school. I served her tea in her favorite cup. Carmen, I said, my voice gentle, I need to ask you something as my dearest friend. It's about Leo's will. She stiffened, her cup clinking softly on the saucer. His Will? The old one, the one that left everything to you. I let the statement hang. Her face went white. To the woman who made me a father. That was beautiful, Carmen, truly. Anya, I never asked for that. I never knew. I believe you, I said, cutting her off with a warm smile. And that's why I need your help. You see, he's become paranoid since I started my art career. He thinks I'm planning something. He might try to come to you, to twist things, to try and get you to corroborate some story about us being at odds. For the children's sake, for the beautiful friendship we've built, I need us to be a united front. Can I count on you to tell me if he tries to contact you about legal or family matters? I had her, trapped in a web of her own guilt and my performative generosity. To refuse would look like admission. Of course, Anya, always. A week later, Leo, drowning in guilt and the terrifying vision of my autonomous future, did exactly what I predicted. He went to Carmen, seeking solace, seeking to confess, to maybe rebuild their secret alliance against my cold new power. Carmen, fearing I already knew, which I did, and protecting her own reputation and the generous godmother brand I'd built for her, shut him down, coldly. She recorded the conversation and sent it to me. He's unstable, Anya. He's talking about undoing the new will, about how your art is a rejection of him. I'm worried for you. The recording was gold. His pleading, her cold, strategic rejection. The sacred we was shattered. I played it for Leo that night. I said nothing. I just pressed play on my phone and set it on the kitchen island between us. He listened to his own desperate whispers, to Carmen's clinical, distancing tone. The last vestige of his romantic narrative crumbled to dust in his ears. His muse was not a saint. She was a coward, and she was now my informant. He broke, not into tears, but into a hollow, empty silence. The two women in his story, the idealized angel and the dutiful vessel, had conspired, in their own ways, to show him the pathetic architect he truly was. We are still married, on paper. The house is now full of my art, my presence, my unignorable legacy. The family story wall is a living document. The children are thriving, loved fiercely by a mother who now knows her own worth. Leo is a ghost in his own home. He goes to work, he provides, he is polite. He looks at me now with something beyond fear, with a kind of awestruck terror. He tried to build a monument to a secret goddess, but he built it on my land. And I have subsumed his monument into the geography of my own empire. He left everything to the woman who made him a father, thinking it was a poem to Carmen. But in the end, the woman who truly made him a father, through blood, pain, and relentless, unglamorous will, was me. And I have taken everything, the security, the narrative, the moral authority, and the future. My foundation's paperwork is filed. My will remains, a Damocles sword of maternal legacy hanging over his head. He wanted to honor a sacrifice, so I showed him what a real sacrifice looks like when it rises not for gratitude, but for power. My body was the portal, and from that portal I have emerged not as a martyr, but as a sovereign. The temple is mine, and I am both the deity and the architect.